Surrounded by a pile of fallen enemies, our warrior pauses to look at the destruction he has caused. Suddenly, a blond man walks up to call the boy Ash, leaving our hero totally confused as he wonders why his father is here instead of leading the subjugation force. With a hand pressed against his hurting arm, our boy stands still and waits for the old man to speak up and say he has come to end his life. The warrior leans on his sword, realizing he was just disposable bait from the very start. With blood smeared all over his face, the boy screams for his father in rage, only to be met by the old man's icy, calculating reply that this is exactly why those without wings are made, and a mocking question asking if the boy doesn't realize he is the foolish son of his own making. Even knowing he's about to die, Aster Elmheim refuses to bow, standing tall in front of the dreaded House Elmheim, the most powerful family on the whole continent. Born to guard the royalty with his sword, the mighty Lord Roderick wields power that makes him a true leader. With the 7 wings in the whole kingdom as the only ones who have them, this guy is a living legend. To pay back the kindness of being saved from the snow, our little friend obeyed every order, even as bitter memories showed him crawling on the ground and being treated like trash. Mocked by his brothers for never growing wings to prove his magic to his father, the boy was the only one in the house who couldn't use any powers at all. His brothers kept calling him the wingless one because he was always their favorite target for jokes. Still, the boy kept training his body and sword, sure that his hard work would one day pay off. Back in the present, the cold forest feels heavy with tension as the two face each other, but our hero stands tall and refuses to run from the danger. Outraged, he demands to know why this cowardly ambush is the reward for his loyalty against his own father. Without a hint of pity, Roderick declares his duty done and orders his son to leave forever, so our hero, burning with rage, spits blood and finally loses his temper. He lunges at the old man with a move meant to strike dead. He calls himself an idiot for ever trusting his family, and now rage burns in his eyes. He dashes forward into the biting cold, to swing his blade with all his might, but the old man just grins in mockery, standing completely unfazed by the attack. In a flash, glowing red chains of magic wrap around the boy and lift him into the air. Then a bunch of henchmen jump in all at once and cut our boy up without any mercy. With magic chains crushing his body, the warrior screams in pain while his brother Brenlane laughs and mocks him as a wingless one, leaving the bloodied child to agree that crawling is all he can do now. Weary and broken, our hero wonders why he was saved if he was just meant to be tossed aside, while his father Roderick kneels before him to remind his son to stay humble since he has never been any use. Yanked hard by his hair, the boy's shame deepens as the old man reveals he only needed the power of the 7 wings hiding inside him. Our hero stares in total shock as he retells the tale of the 7 wings, while his father grins with evil delight and admits his mother was surprisingly useful. Ermac said he threw the boy back into the snow again, claiming she was the one who carried the seed he needed. Desperate, the boy reaches out and begs him to wait and tell his story properly. As the final sword strike lands, our hero screams out, demanding answers. As he fades away and his body turns cold, the warrior wonders if this is truly the end, sighing in regret that he has lived so much for nothing. Suddenly the world turns bright and warm, and when he opens his eyes, he finds himself a tiny baby shivering in the cold snow, too weak to move and crying out in the freezing air. With wide white eyes, our little friend suddenly knows this isn't a dream, but cold, hard reality. Trapped in the fierce snowstorm, he couldn't figure out just how he got there. Glancing down, the boy realizes he's wrapped in a tiny blue cloth and sees that his own chubby hand is far too big for it. At last, the warrior realizes he is trapped inside a newborn's body, and turning his head, he spots the frozen corpse of a strange woman. Suddenly, the flicker of many torches dances in the child's scared eyes while shouts ring out through the woods as riders on horseback begin their wild hunt for the running woman. With the mission on their minds, the guards shout that they must get the baby back for Lord Roderick, and the moment those cursed words leave their mouths, the kid freezes in pure terror. Those scary pictures of the old man fill his mind, and the baby hero quickly realizes the little boy they want is him. Putting the puzzle together, he recalls being found on just such a snowy night before, and as footsteps approach, he realizes how silly it is to think he actually traveled through time. With the lantern's light bearing down on him, the boy knows he must run away from the Duke and save his questions for another day. Without wasting a single second, our runaway baby begins to crawl desperately through the snow, drawing every ounce of strength from his tiny body to put as much distance as he can between himself and the guards. Instantly, the child's tiny hands start to shine with golden light, even as the freezing cold outside makes it hard for him to breathe. As the boy pushes forward through the icy cold, every muscle in his body burns with pain. Now that he remembers the shame of his past life where he crawled on the ground, he is filled with a fierce determination to make this time different, and promises that he will survive no matter what it takes. Our tiny hero, burning with anger, vows revenge on Roderick, sneaking through the white snow until he is too exhausted to move and collapses right next to a pair of boots. A little girl spots the fallen child and screams for her father, while the shocked Viscount of House-Aster stares at the frozen body in disbelief. As the nobleman lifts the baby from the freezing cold, he wonders how such a little warrior ended up in this frozen hell, so he holds him tight in his arms to keep him warm. Stunned by what he found, the man whispers in shock that it's only a baby. Studying the tracks on the ground, he couldn't believe the impossible distance the child had crawled all by itself. The Viscount is completely hooked and just can't stop wondering who this tiny mysterious creature really is. Suddenly, our hero slowly opens his eyes. Feeling lost in this cozy place, the kid wonders how he got here. Soon, a little girl with bright red hair happily stretches out her hand to welcome the stranger. Out just as the girl accidentally pokes our tiny hero in the eye and he cries out. He lets his sisters know he's awake and warns them not to touch his nose. Squeezed tightly between the girl's cheeks, he tries to figure out what crazy thing is happening, just as an older woman quickly shoos the children away to stop them from crushing the baby. Our boy trusts his instincts, makes a magical leap to escape her arms, and then scrambles across the floor, muttering to himself as he tries to make sense of this crazy moment. The baby's sudden burst of speed made the little girl scream in shock. The kid sprints down the hall, running away while the girl screams at him to stop right now. Suddenly, the tiny hero's golden eyes began to glow with fierce intensity. The kid soars through the air, pushed by a magical glow, shocked by the power he just unleashed. With no way to stop himself, he tumbles through the air and panics as he sees he's about to crash hard onto the floor. In a perfect reflex, the Viscount catches the boy in the air, calls him a mysterious child, and the moment the baby sees his savior's face, it all makes sense. The memories show that this man is the legendary Viscount Hiffite from the land of Logric. Shocked by what he realizes, the kid finally understands he's landed in the branch family of the Elmheims. Once that nobleman ruled the Viscounts and fought as a mighty warrior. Back in the day, he stood shoulder to shoulder with the scumbag Roderick, one of the royal wings who swore loyalty to the king. Yet the warrior's memory warns that this whole family was supposed to have died in a civil war years ago. Staring at his own small hand, the baby realizes he's traveled back in time and lets out a frustrated sigh, finding it funny that he just escaped the Duke only to fall into the villain's brother's grip. As she holds the child, the Viscount's wife realizes the magic has run wild and sees that the little one is surprisingly strong, so with a gentle smile and a warm hug, she looks deep into his eyes to promise that the scary moment is over and to help him feel calm again. The soft touch catches the boy's attention, and in a quiet moment, the couple shares worried glances about the little one. Reaching out, the Lord declares without a doubt that the child holds tremendous power and pulls up the sleeve of his little outfit to check something on the skin, proving his theory. The woman's eyes go wide with shock as she spots the mark of the legendary 7 wings. Our hero, still confused, stares at the strange mark on his arm before a hidden switch suddenly flashes a dark memory into his mind. He remembered his father confessing that he killed his son just to get the power of the wings. At last, all the puzzle pieces click into place and the kid realizes the villain took him in long ago just to grab the magic. Furious at the hypocrisy, the baby clenches his teeth in anger at being called useless by the same man who ripped off his wings, while back in the present, the Viscount's wife whispers nervously, terrified that something bad has been found. Without beating around the bush, she asks her husband what will happen to the powerful orphan, and our boy realizes that finding out the truth might lead to trouble for him. He grips his fist so hard his knuckles turn white, promising himself he'll never let this power slip into enemy hands, because he needs it for his revenge. To everyone's total shock, the Viscount smiles and instantly decides to take the child in. The baby's eyes went wide with shock because he was totally caught off guard. Gently stroking the boy's hair, the Lord admits he is still a fledgling who cannot fly alone and promises to raise him until he can spread his own wings. Feeling the warmth of those protective words, our hero's eyes soften right away, only for the door to burst open next and the little girls to tumble into a heap on the bedroom floor. Amused by catching them, the woman asked if the girls were spying on their whole conversation, and after getting up awkwardly, the little ones confessed they were worried about the new baby. In a moment of perfect peace, the whole family gathers around the new baby, with the mother smiling down at her little one to show just how safe he is. Outside, the sun shines bright, signaling the start of a fresh new life. Holding the boy up to the bright window light, the Viscount declares that his name is now Aster, the family's shining new star. 10 whole years fly by like a blink, turning the landscape into something entirely new. With hair now turned gray, the Lord strides proudly through the courtyard as people greet him, while the sword at his waist speaks of 10 years of hard training and deep respect. With a tight grip on his boots, our teenage hero strides forward, ready for what's coming. As he walks with his foster sister Alfin, he gently tells her to be careful on the way. As the girl holds the young man's hand, she thanks him with a big loving smile. Walking hand in hand down the hall with the family's treasure, the two reach their goal and see the banners for the sword dance waiting for them. Every year, the Marshall family gathers to show their might to the other nobles. Heavy footsteps echo down the long hall, where young candidates from every house are packed tight together. While the crowd buzzes around, the Hiffade family instantly becomes the center of everyone's attention. Right away, poisonous whispers start attacking the idea of taking in a boy who isn't born noble, while jealous rivals from the dark corners claim the Viscount is only bringing shame to the great house of Elmium. While the gossip fades into the background, our hero stands tall and unbothered, and his annoyed sister even tells Aster to ignore the losers making noise. She grips her sword and tells the boy that in this world, being weak means getting destroyed, and with a steady heart, the hero nods in agreement. The kid quickly realizes how dangerous their new home is right in front of the huge castle as the proud Viscount shows it to his adopted son. Seeing the boy stay quiet, the Lord asks if the view has disappointed him, but the hero smiles sharply, insists he isn't bored, and says he actually loves the cold air. The old man laughs with relief at the kid's confidence, but cruel memories suddenly invade the hero's mind, bringing back the shame of his first awkward day in society. Back then, that place only hurt and made us feel ashamed, but now everything has changed because of the strength of the seven wings. With revenge burning in his heart, the warrior stares forward without a single sign of fear. Heavy footsteps thunder forward as the Hifrid family marches straight toward the enemy's heart. From the castle windows, evil eyes are already watching the boy arrive, but he doesn't care at all about the scary pressure around him. Standing right next to his father, he has finally locked in the promise of a huge social debut. Our hero smiles with confidence, showing he is ready to fight. The huge arena is full of loud fights where knights are the bosses. With every clash of steel, the duelists show that real power comes from mastering your blade. In the middle of the stage, sparks fly as the fighters push toward the very top of power. For those dirty nobles, that pure sight was the highest honor, while the crowd watched with hungry eyes as the fighters moved with speed and skill across the arena. The hall shakes with loud, harsh crashes whenever the two swords crash together. After a deadly mistake, one of the fighters gets knocked off his weapon and tossed rough and tumble to the ground. As the ultimate prize, a glowing metal trophy appeared in the winner's hand, marking them with honor, while the young redhead on the balcony gulped, feeling the pressure crush him. In a funny twist, she realizes this is exactly why her younger sisters stayed away, while our hero, lost in dark memories, stares into the shadows as he relives his own painful past. A chilling laugh from his past life haunts his mind as he remembers the floor where he was once brutally killed. Suddenly, the kid jolts awake to his sister's worried voice, asking if the excitement of the festival has made his nerves jump. He hides his hate and says the place reminds him of old times, but then quickly changes his mind and calls it gross, leaving Alfan blinking in total confusion. Just as they were talking, the Viscount cut in to say he had to leave for an urgent meeting and told the boy to watch over his daughter, which made the girl so angry she stomped her foot and pointed out that she was a whole year older than him. After patting the hero's shoulder, the Lord whispers that the boy should mingle with influential kids his own age and keep the secret of the seven wings hidden at all costs. The moment the old man turns around, our hero realizes the job ahead is going to be a huge challenge. Suddenly, shadowy enemies spring out from the hall's darkness to surround the two siblings. The kid scratches the back of his neck and complains that hanging out feels impossible in this heavy mood, so the worried redhead asks where he's heading. The warrior speaks plainly and calmly, saying he is going to make some new friends. He doesn't back down an inch and walks straight to the sofa where the arrogant nobles are lounging. The red-haired man, annoyed by their bold move, demands to know who they are. He steps forward with style, tells the rival his name, and warmly calls him Brother Dallas. Our hero wears a fake, harmless smile while his true disgust is clear on his face, and he openly admits he has already seen the boy outside. Adding to the chaos, a lackey beside him points out that this is the trash adopted by the Viscount, and with evil laughter, the villain mocks the kid's face for carrying the family's lesser initial. In a background, with a pure killing intent blazing in his eyes, he looks at the arrogant pair and sees nothing but spoiled kids playing at being kings. But with a firm grip on her foster brother's arm, Alfin tries to drag him away after introductions are done, but the redhead catches sight of the girl, smiles with malice, and calls out her name. With a shuddering, angry voice, the villain sneers to ask if she's still hiding behind her father, then uses his power in the big house to make her sit with them. The young woman snaps back to her senses, turns down the order, and insists their families are equals, while our hero senses trouble coming and grabs his sister to keep her safe. He snatches her wrist with a hard grip and shouts that the talk isn't finished, while the hero's face turns dark with burning hate. The enemy cracks a wicked smile, spits out his insult, and loudly mocks the Viscount as a useless knight who failed to protect his king. Dallas tears her heart out by yelling about her father losing his arm to his brother, while the angry redhead trembles as the jerk boasts that he's thankful he doesn't have that loser's blood running through his veins. The young woman pulls half her blade out and yells at the scoundrel to eat his own words. In a mean trick, the hare flings the whole glass of wine right into the girl's face. Finishing his cruel joke, he tells her that her father must be embarrassed to have raised such a useless girl, then laughs at his own sadism and suggests she wear a raincoat next time. Alfin stands soaked and quiet before everyone, gripping her fists tight and swallowing back her tears. Our hero takes charge, walking slowly while admitting his fear and wondering if he can still hate the murderers, all while a kid quickly grabs a full bottle from a waiter's tray. He finds a sick kind of comfort in the fact that his rage is still burning hot inside him. Holding the bottle tight, the boy shouts out to his rival. The redhead, totally unaware, just turns his head to see the bottle flying straight at him. The boy, happy to prove these guys are still scum, smashes a glass square onto an enemy's head. Bleeding heavily and screaming in shock from the hard hit, the villain lies dazed while our hero pulls out his sword under a giant shadow, ready to fight the coward who dared challenge him. The boy wiped the liquid from his face and laughed at his rival, asking if it was just grape juice. With pure mockery, he claims that drink fits a spoiled noble like the raid leader just perfectly. Memories from 3 years ago flood the warrior's mind just as he struggles to keep his golden light from bursting through. Back then, his wild magic nearly caused a disaster, forcing Alphen to shield her little sisters, so the crying girl begged her foster brother to calm down and stop fighting his power. It became obvious that the Mark of the Seven Wings held a terrible and wildly dangerous power, leaving the Viscount worried about the future and wondering if he could ever truly control it. Back in the present, our hero decides he's ready to show off his new power, just as a frantic guard runs into the room screaming that a huge fight has started. Fuming at being interrupted, the Elmheim family leaders shout for the soldier to explain himself right away. Breathless, the lackey announces that the sons from both houses are about to duel, and the Viscount and the terrifying Duke Roderick stare in shock as their eyes widen together. The dad who raised him sprints down the hall to stop something terrible from happening. When the old man reaches the balcony, he sees his daughter and asks about the chaos below, only for a lord to smile wickedly and point to the court, showing that the show has already started. Down in the center, the two young men stand face to face, ready to settle the prestigious House Elm's dispute. As the noble whispers to the Viscount that the fight's result could change everything, the sword festival, once meant to be just a show, suddenly fills with fear. The big shot taps his chin and predicts total chaos is coming soon, while the redhead brandishes his glowing sword, calls our hero a mute, and demands that he understands the huge gap between their power levels. The villain flashes his sword's magical crest and brags about having the legendary four-wing mark, then loudly challenges the hero to pull out his own emblem for all to see. Feeling sure he'll win, he asks if the kid feels ashamed to show his weakness, but our hero just looks bored and says he'd never embarrass himself by acting like that. His rival's icy silence caught him off guard, making him grind his teeth in pure rage. The boy agrees to the fight but insists that if he wins, the challenger must apologize to his sister. Enraged by the insult, Dallas lunges forward, screaming that if he wins, he'll make that guy work like a dog for the rest of his life. Sparks fly as the two swords smash together in the middle of the arena, but the warrior stands rock still and takes not a single step back despite the heavy attack. Black and gold glow starts to rise from our hero's sword as the redhead pushes his advantage and smiles, convinced his four wings will shatter his foe. Heavy blows slice through the air, pushing our hero back as the magic pressed hard on him. From the stands, Alphen cries out her brother's name with a heavy heart, while the suited lord watches and notes that the adopted boy's sword skills are still not ready for battle. But when it comes to raw power, anyone with a wing crest has such a massive magical edge that they can win even if their skills aren't up to par. Back then, the power of a single wing was just like a candle flame, but the secret magic inside four wings is truly monstrous. Dallas unleashes a fiery blast of red aura to burn his enemy down to the ground. Laughing like a madman, the villain wonders where our boy's arrogance went, but the hero easily blocks the deadly strike and asks if all those threats were just empty words. So angry at being made fun of, the noble slashes his sword down to force the kid to show his real strength. Just as a crowd member laughs and thinks the fight is done, the black sword snaps into action and blocks the enemy blade right before it hits. Our hero flows through the red energy like water and strikes back with a fierce counterattack. With shock, the redhead's eyes go wide as he watches his strong shield break, while our cool hero warns that trash talks too much. With a massive shockwave that rattles the whole arena, the boy stands tall in a golden glow, proving he is the one in control. After 10 years of training at the Viscount's house, he waited in silence for the moment he could finally take his revenge. With his sword held high, the kid channels all his anger toward the hair that destroyed him before. Dallas crashes into the villain, spitting blood as he flies backward while the opponent's boots slide desperately across the stone floor. From the crowd, the other brother's eyes went wide in shock as he couldn't believe the family star was getting hit so hard. Our hero's wild magic knocked the haughty hair flat, leaving it unable to stand tall. With a stammer, the coward tries to defend his four wings while bleeding, but our calm hero watches his enemies panic, without a single sign of pity. Up in the stands, nobles whisper in shock as the outcast humbles the main family right before their eyes, while the warrior lifts his sword again, his golden glow growing so bright and scary that he's ready to strike the final blow. As the Viscount sees the deadly intent, he freezes and warns that things have spiraled out of control, while the cornered redhead screams in panic watching the killing blade come closer. Terror from his dark past wakes the hero's fury as he recalls the cruel grin on the man's face when that cruel man took his arm. House-Aster is so filled with dark rage that his magic blasts out, putting the rival's head in danger right now. In a desperate panic, the lackey throws up his hands, weeping and begging for mercy while his adoptive father screams from the balcony, shouting for his son to stop the attack right now. Just in the nick of time, our hero twists away and smashes the stone floor with a heavy blow. The suited lord smiles with pride, impressed by how perfectly the boy controls his strength. When the dust finally settles, the sword is still stuck in the sand just inches away from the loser's shaking body. Dallas stands humiliated and is told to wear rags next time, but he calmly replies that the coward won't mind another public bath. With a quiet sigh, the victor sheaths his blade and struts away with his head high, while Alphen relaxes in the stands and our hero realizes he is no longer that helpless, wingless boy. A tiny smile appears as the simple truth that he is growing brings his troubled mind back to peace. Suddenly, a freezing shiver raced down the warrior's spine, and his golden eyes flew wide. As you head down the stairs, a deep red, evil pressure spills out and swallows the whole hall in darkness. Our hero slowly turns his neck, realizing that the smell of pure death means a monster is right there. High above, wrapped in a dark evil glow, the bad man Roderick looks down at his son with eyes full of deadly hate. Our hero, cold sweat pouring down his face, realizes he's met the clan's supreme leader. The crowd in the audience whispers in shock as the adopted son knocks down the main character. With heavy steps, the tyrant walks down the stairs, proving the main house has lost its honor, while the boy stands firm, gripping his sword and refusing to back away from the monster. Lying on the arena floor, the cowardly redhead grinned with relief as his dad came rushing in to save him. The kid stands face to face with the legend, staring at the back of the man who once coldly killed him. Lord Roderick's terrifying presence fills the arena with silence, while our hero locks eyes with his deadly foe, hatred burning in both their hearts. He strides right past the boy, ignoring the danger to rush straight to his fallen son on the ground. With a sneer, the spoiled kid points an accusing finger at the weakling, claiming he dared to challenge the mighty family, and the defeated loser begs the old man to unleash his power and crush the troublemaker. Out of nowhere, the leader stomped down on his hurt son's hand with his boot, not giving a single second of mercy. As the raidhead screams in agony from bones being crushed, he is too confused to understand his father's punishment. Everyone, stunned into silence, watches the brutality unfold as the other hairs stand frozen. The old man stared at the smiling boy with pure disgust, declaring that he was a disgrace to the family who deserved no mercy at all. From the balcony, the Viscount screams out with all his might, begging his brother to stop the slaughter. With a cold, sharp blade raised, the tyrant forbids his own bloodline from ever holding a weapon again. In a flash, the sword comes crashing down through the air, heading straight for the terrified creature's eye. Without even thinking, our hero leaps into the path and stops the deadly blow, saving his rival. The kid plants his boot firmly on the ground and insists the coward must apologize to his sister Alphen before the hero, who is staring down the monster, jokingly tells his kungle to wait for that apology before dealing with the trash. The old man's eyes glow with magic as his fury rises, daring the adopted orphan to believe he belongs among the nobility. Our hero keeps his guard up, quickly firing back that he is the Viscount's rightful son and carries the family's heavy burden. Turning away from the fight, the leader looks up to see his brother staring in silence at the growing tension between them. The villain glows with deadly rage and screams that the boy has ruined the big house's name and insulted the king. Behind the scenes, the suited bigwigs agree that the situation has gone far beyond a simple childish squabble. Shaking their heads, the nobles realize that the honor of the entire Elmheim lineage is now on the betting table. Curious about the result, the rivals lean forward in their seats to watch the fight, while the Duke, having pulled his sword just an inch, remembers that the Viscount already lost an arm for being disloyal. The warrior holds his sword tight as he hears a deadly threat about what he might have to give up, but the kid speaks back with no fear at all, pretending to be respectful. He explained the mess by saying it was just a clean fight where he only fought back against insults directed at his family. As the sharp reply hangs in the air, the leader fills the hall with an intense deadly aura that makes everyone feel the weight of his rage. Golden energy glows around the hero as he shouts that he'll never give up a single finger, while a trembling redhead clutches her chest and her father watches the deadly standoff with worry. The blue-haired noble laughs at the silly bravery of a 10-year-old boy daring to face a living legend, then twists his face into a cruel smile and decides to shut this disrespect down forever. Slowing to turn his back, he sheaths his sword and acts as if the fight is over, only for the floor to split open and the tyrant to blast forward with a speed no one can see coming. Our hero's eyes go wide with shock, and on pure instinct, he flings his sword forward. A giant burst of magic swallows the whole arena right when the crash happens. A terrified girl clamps her hands over her mouth as thick smoke rises, while the desperate Viscount screams his brother's name and leaps over the railing. Zooming through the sky like a rocket, the adopted lord pulls his sword and is ready to risk his very life. The father stands up to the monster, raising a giant wall to keep the beast away and save his son's head from being cut off. The shock throws everything back, sweeping the stands like a hurricane. As the noble screams in terror while looking back, he wonders if the boy is still alive, and in that spin through the air, half of the hero's sword drops to the cold ground, showing just how powerful the enemy really is. With shaky legs, the warrior grips only the useless hilt as he pans, while his father watches in shock. Blood streaming down his face, the boy clenches his teeth in frustration as he watches his own body fail against the coming end. Lord Roderick Shia stood completely unharmed, slowly brushing dust off his sword as if it were nothing, leaving a strange hole in the court while the monster turned to walk away in total silence. The Viscount runs to his son, grabs him tight, and hugs him with the relief of a father who almost lost everything again. Our hero, crying blood and tears from exhaustion, whispers that he kept his promise to protect his sister as he strokes the boy's neck, while the Lord smiles proudly and says his performance was magnificent. At the far end of the hall, the Duke's large shape vanishes through the doors, and the nightmare ends. While the nobles gossip that the leader's surprise attack was a cowardly and childish move, the old man convinces himself that sparing the boy would ruin his family's reputation. Even though the odds were stacked against him, our hero's brave fight against the tyrant made him a legend that shocked everyone in the gossip mills, while the ruler's dark fears of a coming storm that could tear the world in two warned that the Elmheim family might soon tear themselves apart in a civil war. Held safely in his dad's arms, the tired boy gets a desperate, tearful hug from his older sister. The scene shifts to a bright, sunny day at the castle training ground, where soldiers are sweating hard, and after taking a bad hit mid-air, one recruit crashes down onto the dirt. The warrior sits on the ground, praising the brutal blow and admitting his training partner's unnatural strength, while walking through the courtyard with calm confidence to earn respectful bows from the toughest veterans. The knights are stunned and scared that a 10-year-old boy trains so hard, and his story of crushing the Duke's third son is the only thing everyone talks about as they walk through the hallways. The hero forgets about his fame and gives all his attention to swinging the wooden sword with perfect care. Pushing himself through a tough workout, he thought the festival was the perfect chance to show off his power and silence all the doubters. Sliding through the air with ease, the boy's true aim is still to erase the main house from the map. The kid smashes the training dummies with huge hits, wishing he had checked just how strong his golden power really was that day. Facing the harsh truth, the warrior realizes that trying to beat Roderick right now is nothing short of a suicide mission. As our hero jumps high to strike a deadly blow, he suddenly sees that the winged crest is only the start of his huge magical power. Frustrated by his own limits, our boy realizes he still can't unlock the full power of the 7 wings, so he decides that magic is a waste because having talent means nothing if you can't control it. Gripping his wooden sword, the kid practices furiously, slicing the air to control this wild power, while sweat pours down his face and his sharp eyes show he won't quit. Exhausted from the wild fight, the hero tosses his wooden weapon onto the dusty ground. The dust is littered with fallen soldiers as our hero calls out to the next one to face him. Temly, a familiar voice calls out, and the boy turns his head with a start. As he walks through the courtyard, his red-haired sister marvels at his incredible strength and tells him their father wants to talk. Our hero nods to the message, leaves the fallen soldiers behind, and follows the girl, his eyes unable to look away as he notices how tightly her clothes fit. Seeing the kid staring so hard, the girl turns her head, wondering what has caught his attention. He points out straight away that seeing her in that combat gear every day is pretty unusual. Alphen shrugs and says her brother's hard work pushed her to train so she can keep things balanced, which leaves the boy blinking in surprise with no words to say. With a confident grin, the redhead points her wooden sword and vows to steal every spare moment he has when he returns. Laughing off her warning, our warrior jokes that she should try hitting him a bit softer next time, and then the scene shifts from the busy courtyard straight into the quiet castle halls. The kid knocks on the heavy wooden door, tells everyone he's found the right spot, and once inside the sunlit office, immediately asks what his dad needs. The Viscount sits stiffly and tells the boy to sit, but the hero quickly grabs a chair, sensing the heavy mood hanging in the air even from far away. The old man sighed as he remembered it had been nearly 10 years since the boy was adopted, leaving our hero confused because he thought his dad would wait until he was older to talk about it. Mysteriously, the Lord slides a small velvet box forward to show a ring with a bright red stone, and holding it up, the noble says firmly that this is the sign the family has chosen its next leader. The boy's golden eyes go wide with shock as his father explains that the Viscount's house is in terrible trouble. Even though they are just a branch family, the weight of the Elmheim name forces them to guard their land from invaders, and the constant threat of enemies circling like vultures means the leader's seat cannot stay empty. The smart boy bluntly asks if his blood sisters agree with this succession, and the Lord reassures him that he will formally announce the decision when he visits his daughters at the academy. Even though he had an answer ready, our hero knows Marfa and Kudo won't take this lying down, and breaking into a cold sweat, he imagines their fury as they always hated losing their spot to an adopted boy. The old man laughs at the worry, saying that being born with 7 wings is the ultimate proof of worth, but the boy jumps up and rejects the offer immediately without a second thought. The warrior is brutally honest, admitting he can't even control his own magic, and he makes it worse by remembering the scary day his immature powers nearly caused him to hurt his older sister. After the temporary no, the Viscount slides another mysterious object across the shiny wooden table. Confused, the boy thought the ring was his only prize, but his father carefully removed a cloth to reveal a huge scabbard, saying the boy would much prefer this. Our hero stares hard at the object, his eyes widening with curiosity as they catch the gleam of the legendary gift, the magic sword Graham shines, topped with a red jewel that holds the power of the wind. They rush to a quiet spot in the woods to try out their new toy, but the boy wonders why they couldn't just test it in the castle's training hall instead. With sweat beading on his brow, the father nervously recalls his son's wild ways and insists the empty forest is just a safety measure, while the Viscount, gripping his reinforced weapon, explains that this heirloom is a priceless treasure reserved only for the eldest son of the main house. With a sharp tug, the lord strips away the scabbard to show his secret, and the kid freezes in shock to find the weapon has no steel blade at all. The father holds up a heavy, smooth golden hilt with no point. Then the old man pours his magic into it, slicing the air with a red blade that can cut whatever he aims it at, with the power of the strike depending entirely on how much magic the user has. With a roar, the crimson energy blast tears through everything in its way, wiping out all that stands before it. The attack ripped through the whole forest, knocking down dozens of trees in just a split second. With smoke curling from the weapon, the Viscount warns that a weak warrior would have their life force completely drained by the sword. With a skilled twist of the hilt, the father passes the treasure to our hero and asks if he'd like to give it a try. But without even a second's pause, the boy grabs the handle tight, knowing the legendary power now rests in his hands. Suddenly, a dark black and gold glow starts to spill out of the boy like he can't stop it. With a thunderous boom, the power of the 7 wings erupts and turns into a massive black blade. Startled by the weapon fighting back, our hero realizes his magic is being pulled into the hilt, all by itself. With no thought of stopping, a huge beam of light slices through the clouds like a laser, lighting up the whole sky. Away in the castle courtyard, the recruits freeze and stare in confusion at the flash in the sky, while the red-haired sister looks on closely as the magical storm tears through the clouds above the forest. Alphen just smiles, absolutely sure that her silly brother is behind this crazy mix-up. Back in the ruined clearing, our hero calms the wild beam of black energy and smiles proudly at his new power. The Viscount freezes in cold sweat, completely stunned to see that true power is light years beyond what anyone else could ever hope to reach. The Lord realizes that just turning on the magic has torn swirling whirlpools right into the air. After all of Elmheim's long history, no one has ever been born with the full 7 wings, but the father sees the boy's back and knows that once he masters this gift, he will become an unstoppable monster. The old man knew the boy would easily beat Duke Roderick, the 6-winged brute. But the nobleman knows that such power is a perfect spark for conflict and jealousy, so he warns that if the truth gets out, the whole world will instantly hate the kid. When the threat appears, some groups will rush to grab this power for themselves, while others will hide in wait to try and kill him no matter what. The man reaches out to his adopted son and promises to guide him so he never has to feel helpless again. The Lord looks at the boy with the warmth of a father and asks him to get strong before the real fighting starts. Our hero grips the old man's hand tightly, vowing to leave his miserable past behind and master the magic sword and 7 wings, all while quietly giving thanks to his father. 3 long days go by before the Viscount's great hall is finally filled with important guests. As the 2 older sisters step through the door from the academy, the redhead Kudo flashes a mischievous grin and fixes her red uniform while their strong presence fills the room. Opening her arms, she playfully shouts for a big hug from her younger sisters. But the little ones dash straight to hug the platinum-haired sister Malfa, leaving the red-haired Kudo standing alone in the hall with open arms, confused and hurt by their sudden rejection. True to her usual sharp tongue, the youngest girl grumbles that her red-haired sister always ruins their hair when they hug, while the girl who was left out throws her arms across her chest and blames her own dark passion for the trouble. Just then, Alphen appears on the stairs and sees her older sister being left out, so she pounces on the girl to give a surprise hug that squeezes her neck until the redhead smothers her in an overly enthusiastic display of affection, after which the platinum-haired warrior looks around the hall and notices that someone important is missing from the reception. The Viscount points to the back and says he knows where Aster is, which instantly darkens the redhead's face and kills the happy mood. Deep in the quiet forest, a giant burst of red light shows just how hard our hero is training. A boy twists through the air and hits the ground breathing hard, still struggling to keep his magic blade steady. Drenched in cold sweat and swearing in frustration, our hero realizes that controlling this strange crimson sword is far harder than expected, since even just starting the magic drains every bit of his mental strength. Standing right in the middle of the clearing, the kid wonders what he needs to do to match the calm control his father shows. Just then, slow steps echoed through the quiet as Kudo walked in to laugh at the boy's hard work. The boy is caught off guard, relaxes his defenses, and greets his sister, wondering if she's returned from the academy yet, only to be met by her sharp smile and a teasing jab that he's been too busy to welcome them back. With her arms crossed, she snaps at him for thinking he's too special because of the festival rumors, while the kid tries to make up for it by praising her amazing talent and the incredible missions she's done in the dark. He looks at her uniform and recalls that Kudo was the only new recruit to get the Medal of Honor that year, while she speaks plainly about needing at least one medal to become the successor. With narrowed eyes, the sister wonders if the rumor that he refused to lead the family was just a trick to turn her against him, and our hero realizes that his father's passive-aggressive move has only fueled dangerous gossip. Kudo pulls out her heavy wooden sword, stops hiding her anger at her brother's silence, and openly scolds them both for being rude about her lifelong dream of taking over the family. The boy's golden eyes go wide with shock as his sister leaps over a shattered tree to smash through the growing danger. A wooden blade slashes through the wind and brings a deadly strike straight down on our hero's head. Our warrior barely escapes the fatal strike that blasts a giant crater into the ground, and as he steadies himself, he demands to know why the psycho suddenly attacked with such deadly intent. The redhead brushed off her dust, stepped into a fighting pose, and told her little brother she was about to give him a test. With a cruel grin, the elite knight declared that the warm-up was done, and the real attack was starting. The kid begs for a break, claiming his magic sword isn't finished, but Kudo ignores him and asks if he'd use such a lame excuse against a real enemy. The boy is so shocked he whispers enemy, but his sister marches toward him with heavy steps, warning that knights never back down and she will crush him if he tries to hold back. Our hero shoves back against the trees, frantically dodging the heavy blows while grumbling in anger, just as his sister leaps from above to attack while the kid focuses all his attention on the sword. With no other choice, the boy ignites his sword with blazing red power and unleashes a deadly aura that shows he is ready to kill. The clash is so intense that the warrior instantly knows the girl means to kill him. When the wooden sword hits the magic blade, a huge burst of energy cracks open the forest floor. The redhead lets out a proud laugh, impressed that her brother's sharp skills are still sharp even after all that academy training. And suddenly, the scarlet blade starts to shiver and pull in too much magic for the boy to hold, so his sister strikes from the side while laughing at how poorly he controls his own power. With a quick jump, the hero dodges the knockout and whispers that Kudo is still as tough as ever, while memories flood back of how the girl always beat the kid in training since they were children. At that time, the official reason was her anger at being the only child of the royal blood left to claim the throne, while the servants whispered that she was just jealous of the adopted hero's powerful wing arc. But for our hero, the truth was always that Kudo was just his own cruel, unyielding enemy. Back in the dusty clearing, the warrior steadies his power and sees the knight's deadly hate is unchanged, so he focuses on staying alive and tries to guess where the knight will strike next. The sister doesn't even pause to rest. She bursts right out of the cloud and smashes straight at him with all her raw strength. Kudo screams at the top of her lungs, telling the kid he'll never lead the Viscount's family, while far away in the quiet castle, Manhwa watches the library window with a worried look on her face. Instead of the violence, Manhwa asks her father if they might die in the forest, but her calm father Viscount assures her that their rivalry is healthy and they won't fight too dangerously. After sighing in relief at the peaceful answer, the platinum-haired girl quickly changes the topic and demands to know the real reason their father called them back to the castle. As the old man snaps the small box shut with the successor's ring, he tells his daughter the call had nothing to do with the family throne, and she sees the deep seriousness in his face. He slides a crimson waxed envelope across the table as the Lord reveals it's a summons from the main house, Elmium. Lost in dark thoughts, he reveals that the old elders from the main family want to meet the prodigy from the branch family. Malfour gulps down his fear, admitting that accepting this sudden offer is a terrifying leap that could cost him Aster forever. Back in the dusty clearing, the redhead lands hard hits to push her brother to his breaking point. Tired of trying to explain that he already said no to the ring, our hero complains that the girl won't listen, because in her twisted mind, his peaceful rejection sounds like pure contempt and arrogance. The hero blocks the crimson blade, but struggles under the impossible weight of the elite knight's strike. The kid breaks into a cold sweat, imagining the enemy as a giant troll, swinging a massive sledgehammer. Our warrior, driven only by the need to survive, drives his blade into the earth, sending a loud burst of red energy through the ground. Sliding back through the dust, he barely escapes the crushing blow. After the slaughter, the exhausted boy raises his shield and begs the madman to listen, but the redhead just grins with a dark laugh and calls him a coward for trying to run away from the fight. Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind strikes the kid from below, sweeping everything in its path. Crossing his arms to block a blow that made him sweat with fear, Kudo lands on the ground and mocks the hero's swordsmanship as the mark of a third-rate warrior. As she spins her wooden blade, the sister warns that relying only on magic is a path for lesser warriors, and as she points her weapon, she declares that true greatness comes only when sword and magic merge into perfect unity. She sighed, shook her head in disappointment, and explained that the magic marks aren't just about status, but actually measure how much raw power and strength you have. Though the rules say the five-winged bearer should easily crush the seven-winged boy, our hero ran away from the fight so he could use his old fencing tricks instead of fighting head-on. Pressing her face right up against his, the knight asks if he still secretly fears his own magic, while mocking his past accident by wondering if he's terrified of losing control and turning into a monster all over again. The hero's eyes go wide with shock as the question hits home and his hidden doubts finally surface. In a sudden moment of clarity, he realizes he never even thought about using his endless power out of fear. Seeing the sword slipping, the hero realizes he's been holding back on purpose, and as the redhead distracts him with a sparkling leap, she urges the boy to finally let his magic flow freely. The knight, without a moment's doubt, warns that such a gift cannot simply be wasted because of foolish pride. She screams so loud that the kid must pour every bit of his strength into that attack. As he grips the golden hilt, the veins on our warrior's arms swell while he pours every bit of his energy into the blade. As the giant crimson blade slams into the wooden sword, it shatters with a massive boom that sends a shockwave racing across the ground. Surprised by the force of her blow, the redhead realizes the hero had actually blocked her strongest move, so the smiling boy thanks his sister for waking him up. The warrior laughs nervously, completely stunned that the kid still has enough mana to charge up another attack. With gritted teeth, she pulls back to spring again, trying to figure out just how strong the boy really is. Finally, our hero sees the endless power of the legendary Seven Wings. Knowing he can't hold on forever, he realizes all he needs is just a quick second. He ignores the shaking world around him and pours every last bit of his power into that split second of impact, vowing to make the most of the second life he was given. He turns away from the past and refuses to let fate control his power or his family, using memories of old hardship as fuel to prove that the love of the Viscount and his sisters is worth any sacrifice. The redhead freezes in terror as the boy suddenly becomes terrifying, and a huge red beam instantly splits the forest in half. The hero calmly walks through the wild magic, cutting through the air so quietly that Kudo's wooden sword shatters in an instant without him even knowing. Before the girl could even blink, our hero vanished in a flash, his eyes burning with magic flames as he knew it was time to stop defending and strike with all his might. His sister's eyes show a terrifying glimpse of the monster that just woke up. The magical sword comes down with a deadly, unstoppable strike to end the fight without mercy. Suddenly, the redhead jolts awake, her face soaked in sweat as she stares at the bright window, trying to figure out where she is. From the bedroom door, the platinum-haired Manhwa whispers that the sleepyhead is finally awake, while the older sister pulls back the curtain to joke that her nap was very productive. Regaining her senses, the terrified warrior asks what happened in her fight with the kid, and Manhwa calmly smiles to tell her that the boy himself carried her unconscious back to the castle. As she passes on the message, she says our hero said he was too tired to stop his sister from passing out during the fight, but Kudo whispers in shock that the whole story just doesn't make any sense. She is absolutely sure the red sword sliced her head off in the woods, yet the knight is still whole, proving the boy used up all his magic just before the cut could happen. She can only feel the tingling in her body as proof that a huge rush of mana flowed through her without causing harm, and realizing this, the redhead knows the young boy would never hurt his own sister. Even so, she confesses to the freezing fear that gripped her heart, sure she was about to die from that last hit, while Kudo laughs with a mix of anger and pride, admitting the mutant has become a truly annoyingly tough rival. She flings the blanket aside, snatches a new sword from the bedroom wall, and gets ready for another round. Enraged, the girl shouts that she'll never agree to a duel with such a cheesy ending. She promised to hunt the boy down from the very first second, but when she asked where he was hiding, the surprised platinum-haired girl just told her that Aster had already left the castle hours ago. Sighing, Malphite tells the redhead that her father got a summons from the main house, and they had to leave right away on the elder's orders, leaving the confused girl wondering why no one told her about such an urgent meeting. On the dusty road, the carriage races forward, while the Viscount breaks the quiet to talk with the boy. Peering through the window, the hero leans in to listen closely as they explain everything about the strange men coming from the big house. With a grim look, his adoptive father warns that the real legends are the elders who rule Elmium from the shadows, for they are the powerful former chiefs and retired rulers from the royal family. Hiding deep within the main castle, their dark shadows steer every family decision with both massive political sway and terrible magical might. As suspicious that the elders are finally calling the boy they ignored for 10 years, the sharp-minded kid guesses they summoned him just to humiliate him at the sword festival. Standing before the castle mirror, the old man warns that the pride and glory of these men are worth far more than any treasure they could steal. Scary gossip says that warriors thrown into the beast pens will die if they dare insult this terrible council. After sharing a scary tale, the Viscount asks where the boy learned of such horror, only for the kid to grin with confidence and say he's been ready for revenge ever since he drove his sword into the arena floor. Shifting the topic, the noble asks if our hero really isn't regretting leaving without saying goodbye to his sisters, but the boy casually reassures him that it's all part of the plan to sneak out and skip the dramatic goodbyes. As their chat ends, he jokes that Kudo will finally relax without the redhead around, then thanks his sister mentally for the battle and admits he's finally figured out how to wield the magic sword, Graham. Feeling sure of his new power, he believes he can unlock the deadly strength of the Seven Wings without destroying everything, so he demands the Viscount step back and let him fix this mess all by himself. The old man snaps at the boy's boldness, shouting that he is still the youngest in the house, not a master, just as a scary noise bursts from outside their carriage and makes our hero's eyes go wide. With a loud pound on the glass, the redhead Kudo swings down from the window and yells at her brother, calling him a coward. The boy was so shocked by the psycho's tenacity that he wondered if she had chased the carriage all the way. She jumps into the car, fuming at the kid for running away, then smooths her clothes while admitting she knows all about the trouble with the elders back at the main castle. Instead of accepting the scolding, the hero reminds her that their father sent them both back specifically to guard the house while he's away, and the knight grimly admits that this mission demands extreme care. Remembering what her platinum-haired sister said about the hero likely never returning from that snake pit, Kudo lets out a nervous laugh and calls her dramatic because it's just a chat trip. She jabbed a finger right in his face, furious that her brother gets special treatment just for being a man with the legendary crest. The girl, sickened by how grown-up the kid acted, threw the insult that even as the oldest, she always felt like the useless baby of the family. Surprising the redhead, our warrior smiles truly and tells her that despite their fights, she remains his precious family. The Viscount smiles quietly to himself as he watches the two argue and make up like real brothers. Flushed and embarrassed, the knight turns away, begging him to return alive for their fight, while the crazy challenger narrows her eyes, vowing she won't let such a shameful loss stand. The girl jumps out of the moving carriage and runs back to the castle without looking back, while our confused hero grumbles about why such a crazy girl would run for miles just to threaten him. As the hero whispers a real thank you for his sister's strange worry, he waves from the window and promises he'll come back home safe. Miles away, the huge iron gates swing open as the guards cheer for Lord Hifrid. The elite soldiers quietly tell them that the Grand Elder is already waiting for the prisoner in the hall. The Viscount steps up to lead the way, boasting he knows the path by heart, only to find the guard captain blocking the gate with crossed spears and demanding they move together under point of steel. The kid realizes that this heavy, scary security has nothing to do with a grandfather's love. As the warrior gazes up at the towering castle, his mind gets dragged back into the dark, scary dreams of his past. As the Viscount walks down the guard-lined hallway, he urgently whispers a deadly warning to his son, telling him to swallow his pride and stay cool no matter what happens. Knowing disaster is coming, he warns that the Elder's presence proves the danger is real and the punishment will kill, but our hero cuts through the lecture to spot a familiar red-haired figure training hard in the lower courtyard. With his good hand crushed, the cowardly-haired Dallas swings a wooden sword with his left arm, then snaps back to reality as he turns his head to promise his dad he's listening. He confirms the order and vows to act like a holy man today, while our hero grins mischievously at his sister Kudo's threat, knowing he must return home unharmed to avoid another beating. As the massive doors of the council hall creak open, a sinister voice echoes to announce the arrival of Lord Hifrid and his son, who enter to face the withered old men. Right away, a scratchy voice welcomes the pair, noting it's been more than a decade since their last visit, while under the weak light, a wrinkled Makar elder stares at the Viscount with nothing but pure contempt. Bending his knee in deep respect, the adoptive father bows to the sixth head of the family, and as our hero watches the old man humiliated, he realizes in his mind that this Jezer is his terrible great-grandfather. With golden magic sparking around him, the boy looks around the heavy air to see what dangers he might face. Our hero finally realizes that Zenigel Elmheim, the head of the six families, is the real monster hiding in the shadows and pulling all the strings. Looking around, the boy realizes that the powerful leaders who run the family have arrived, and seeing some of the same high-ranking figures from the Sword Festival confirms that this political trap is far more expensive than he thought. Spotting a crucial clue, the hero searches for the terrifying Duke Roderick, who snaps at him with no patience for silly games. For a long time, the leader of the Royal Knights has been so busy fighting monsters that he leaves all the political problems to the older men. In his past life, the boy had no power to ever face his disgusting grandfather, who ignored him, but now he is shocked to see that even in retirement, the old man still holds terrifying power. Stepping up to defend, the Viscount angrily asks why the council treats this trial like a joke, while the old man laughs weakly and says the answer is clearly painted on everyone's faces. With the accusation tossed aside, the elder calls out the public shame of the festival and points straight at the boy as the one to blame. Our hero gulps hard, seeing that the council's trap has snapped shut around him. The old man insists the Duke already settled the matter at the festival, but a furious noble scoffs, saying the Duke's retreat was just a show to save face and avoid trouble. The great-grandfather declared that the insult from the dirty-blooded mute must be answered by sending him into total exile. With his wits gone, our brave fighter steps up to shoulder the blame for the arena's ruin, shouting at the elders that they must punish only him and let the Viscount go free. With a silent, frozen face, his adoptive father hears the boy's desperate plea, and instantly the hall grows cold as the leaders glare at the kid with pure hatred. The old man lets out a cruel sigh, declares the adopted son's discipline utterly ruined, and then cuts the speech short to tell them that the family holds total power over 12,000 unyielding knights. With the heavy honor of the Elmheim name on their shoulders, the soldiers insist that everyone follows the chain of command just to keep things orderly. The great-grandfather warns that enemies in the shadows are ready to tear the clan apart at the first sign of weakness, while a cynical noble adds that even inside the room other lords are waiting for the Viscount to fall. The old man slams his cane on the floor to demand a promise of peace, and instantly a soldier hands the Viscount the hilt of his glowing sword. Spotting the red gem on the weapon's handle, the father shudders as the cold steel brings back his terrible past. With a cane in hand, the cruel old man remembers the day Roderick chopped off his brother's arm right here in this very hall. The old man's eyes burn with hate, forcing him to cut his adopted son's head off right there in the big hall to prove he is loyal. His eyes go wide with shock as our hero freezes, stunned by his great-grandfather's monstrous command to kill, but the Viscount stands firm, refusing the order with a clear and strong voice. Standing right in front of the monster, the adoptive father says he'd rather end his own life than hurt his son, while the cold-hearted great-grandfather just quietly admits he gets it. He taps his cane on the floor, and everyone's destiny is sealed. The elder, showing no mercy, sentences the lord, his wife, his daughters, and our hero to die. In an instant, the guards pull out their swords and get ready to cut the Viscount's family down to the last one. Soaked in sweat, the adoptive father grabs his weapon for a final desperate stand, but the boy steps forward to ask what the old man is so scared of. The old man stares in shock and anger at the audacious hero, who, surrounded by deadly blades, sneers that they are all cowards and tells them to either leave him alone or kill him right now. Suddenly, the boy tears off his shirt and warns anyone who touches his new family, leaving the shocked Viscount frozen and unable to react. After begging his father for forgiveness, the warrior admits he can't keep his mouth shut, and terrified elite soldiers scramble back in trembling fear at the silly scene. The legend of the Seven Wings burns brightly on our hero's back right in the center of the big hall. The boy, glowing with magic, warns that these 7 wings will soon be the Elmheim family's worst nightmare. He glows with golden eyes and warns the old men to think twice before they do anything. The whole council jumps up in shock, staring at the legend that has suddenly come to life. One noble freezes in terror, wondering if the glowing mark is just a trick, but another leader checks closely and shouts that it is truly real. The Grand Elder is so shaken he can hardly speak in full sentences. The old man shifts back into his fierce stance and demands to know if the boy truly grasps the heavy history hidden in that mark. Our hero grins with confidence, proving that more wings mean more terror for his foes, and just as the room grows tense, the blue-haired noble laughs so loudly that everyone in the hall turns to look. Count Maze chuckles at the mess and tells the great-grandfather to keep going, so the leader dives into the past to share how the spirits once gave these magic crests as gifts back in ancient times. For many generations, people sharpened this dangerous magic and handed it down from father to son. But history shows that no human has ever earned 7 wings, not even close, unless they were one of the founding spirits. The warrior stares at the danger and asks the council if they think he belongs to that lost spiritual clan. Facing away from the boy, the old man grumbles that if those wings are real, everything changes. Amidst the tension, the Viscount swallows hard as the boy, ignoring all legends, simply states he is his son. The hero, ignoring where he's from, challenges the elders to accept him as a deadly enemy and warns that if he's banished, other noble families will rush to hire his 7 wings. To make the council's worst nightmare come true, the boy threatens to become the ultimate symbol of rebellion, outshining even the hated Duke Rodri, while using the old man's own words to warn them that the clan is already split and a civil war is at their doorstep. Haunted by memories of his past life, the boy knows a terrible war is coming and wants to save his dad by keeping ally and foe apart right now. Furious at his arrogance, the great-grandfather fires back, daring the mute to claim he's truly worth that much. The old man quickly pretends he knows nothing about how powerful these wings really are. Still grinning that sharp grin, our boy tells the old man to try and take him out if he truly doubts his power, warning in a deadly tone that any attack will instantly start a war against the whole council. In his mind, the warrior knows a full-scale attack from the clan would erase him, but with the trap already set, the blue-haired noble suddenly claps his hands to grab everyone's attention. Count sneers that talking won't help, then smiles with cruel delight and suggests killing the boy right now. One terrified noble tried to shut down the idea, but was immediately silenced with a warning not to underestimate the legendary mark. Standing tall in his blue suit, the big shot tells the council they can decide the kid's fate once the test is done. The count stands before the boy and asks what his great-grandfather thinks about using the house's dark and mysterious rooms. Our clever hero instantly realizes this odd noble is a friend, and from his attitude, the boy knows he just found a powerful ally. After tapping his cane, the grand old man agreed to the offer and told the boy to follow him. The old man grumbles that beating up his rude grandson is just his family duty. As the hero walks down the stairs, he stares at the strange pit below and wonders if this really is the arena. In the dark, the old grandfather shows us a huge round cage hanging from thick chains deep inside the underground bunker. The old man shares how that shelter is now home to a hungry magical beast, and he says that to survive the trial, you must simply defeat the giant monster without any hesitation. The Viscount scolds his son for blowing his trump card, but the boy insists the timing was perfect, so his worried adoptive father warns him to stay sharp and never waver for even a second. Arrow leaps into the dark drop with no fear at all, ready to fight whatever waits down there. While the blue-haired noble flashes a confident grin, our hero crashes into the wet arena floor, adjusts his golden eyes to the dark pit, and starts looking around to see what's hiding in the shadows. Suddenly, a rotting stench fills the air, and the kid freezes as he stares at the strange slump shadow above, while the old man's creepy voice echoes from the bars to say he even gave the coward Dallas a second chance to win his honor in that same trial. By our hero's boot, a severed red-haired head lies soaking in blood, proving the boy was torn apart and eaten by the monster. Slowly, the giant blue-furred beast crept out of the darkness, its claws scraping against the stone floor. Our hero clutches his magic sword as an old man warns him not to let the council down. The giant monster roars so loud it shakes the air as it rushes forward to start the killing.